This is part 8 of the question and answer book, The Mancharians' Newest Civilization, in audio format. In this section we learn about the nature of dimensions and the effect our personal frequency has on our interdimensional makeup. The Mancharians also expound on the reality of good versus evil and its duality as a consequence. The transferee, through which the information was received, is Uthrania Sila Sentana-Ries Cortez. All sessions were recorded in 1995 in Tempe, Arizona. Director, thank you. So indeed, once we enter into the fifth and sixth and higher dimensions, the element of time becomes an eternal element or essence. Is that correct? Mancharians, the time coordinates, and here we choose to try to work within your linguistic banks, as you retire into closer dimensions, for they are not further away than your nose. You will find the layer between each molecule breaks down with the higher frequency as you retract and perform your consciousness higher. As your higher self is reaching up, so does the frequency. You could understand this better by having a loud pitch and performing it upon a crystal glass. And what do you think would happen? Director, it would sing. Mancharians, and as you proceed with the vibrations, the higher and higher, and this is noted even on your planet, the connection we make for you. What happens then is the glass shatters. The molecules. Director, disintegrate. Mancharians, precisely. But if the frequency is high enough, the molecular structure will shift and you can walk through it. It will divide itself upon many divisions, so thereby working with the same universal principle, the higher the frequencies, as your higher self reaches up dimension by dimension, for it is always at 2 dimensions higher than your lower part. However, it must expand and grow into all-knowingness, and this does take many eons. But indeed is a pleasurable experience. For this is where your joy comes from. Not from the lower bowels, but the joy that your higher consciousness brings into your soul. That is the tie or the cord. You have cord to etheric bodies. There is also cord to higher bodies. They, of course, work in multi-dimensions. They are not just one, for you must understand when your other bodies are working in other dimensions, each has higher self but is all part of one. You are so fragmented. You know no understanding of how much you are split apart. No wonder one human cannot even get along with itself. Proceed at your liberty. We do enjoy these concepts. We love to teach children of ours. Director, indeed, and we appreciate your deliberations and explanations. Is there a duality between our third-dimensional plane and the fourth-dimensional plane, which other people call the astral plane? Are these two forming a duality, because you indicate we go into the higher dimension from the third to the fifth? Am I correct? Mancharians, in a manner of speaking. Let us first explain to you and your people. As we have already stated, your higher self is 2 dimensions up, pulling you up and pulling the joy and the truth down. Is that not so? Director, indeed. Mancharians, therefore you do bypass the fourth in that regard. Those of you, of course, who are on the upward journey at a greater accelerated pace, will find themselves indeed within the limits of the fifth dimension. Those who are not at such an accelerated pace, but do have the truth in their hearts, will find themselves within the limited gates of the fourth dimension, which actually is only a little more refined than your third-dimensional plane. We are most gratified to have this opportunity to teach our children. We are the Mancharians. We are the creators. You are all a part of the creation. You are part of the Creator of which we are one body. Proceed. Director, thank you. Can you please explain from your perspective, the concept, as we know it, of good and evil? Mancharians, concepts again are formulated within categorical expression. This differs almost a little from definitions. However, there is indeed, and here we do again deal within realms and understanding and concepts of division of duality, for one cannot survive without the other. And how could this be so? Would it not indeed be a much more perfect situationary practice within the multidimensional universes to have no havoc reign upon you? But then, to have no havoc or chaos would mean you would find your joy eliminated. For how would you know joy if you knew no sadness? How would you know prosperity if you knew no poverty? Do you understand our message to you and your people? Director: Yes, indeed. Mancharians: Is this satisfactory, or would we be asked again to elaborate? Director: One aspect, yes, I would like you to elaborate on. Most definitely. From your highly developed perspective or plane, would you be in agreement with us when it comes to viewing negativity or evil as unacceptable to a righteous character? Am I correct? Mancharians: Forgive us at this time. We were reaffirming our adjustment categories within this channel. Proceed. Director: All right. My question was, most definitely from your plane, that is your 16th dimensional realm, you function and operate from the basis of absence of evil. And if there was evil, it would definitely be unacceptable. Am I correct? We reject evil and accept anything that is good, righteous, and compassionate. Mancharians: Here we work on the basis of your perception again, individualizing each concept within your brain waves. Not really, would be our defined answer to you. We do perform no evil, but in fact we gather, and before we formed into one group and one body, anything of a negative nature was placed in a body all itself. Therefore performing again a duality. For again we say to you to try to understand, how can you have goodness without badness living across the street? However, each dimension, of course, has its dual counterparts, as some dimensions have 3 dual counterparts, which makes a party of 2 each, adding up to 4. 4 children understand how to add 1 and 1, and then you have its dual counterparts of 1 and 1, and you end up with 2, which is a duality of the other half of the 2, and you add them and you have a complete whole of a 4, which also has a duality. Director: Am I understanding you correctly, that on higher dimensional levels, each one has a positive and a negative, or a good and an evil sphere or phenomenon? Mancharians: Indeed. This, the good Master and Samaritan, of which many of your people know of and unfortunately bring themselves to worship, instead of learning the truth of that entity's words when he tried to explain, when he went to the bowels of the earth and found Abraham's chamber, if we could use those words out of your linguistic banks, on one side, and on the other side so many people as they call it, purgatory-type distress. He was trying to explain multi-dimension, the duality of dimensions, where one was as glorious and blissful, and the other poverty-stricken with sadness and torture. For it is like looking through a looking glass. There is a veil between. This is why the bliss surrounds those in the much higher dimensions, simply for the reasoning that we do not allow it within our realm. However, if it were not for duality, we could not exist in bliss, for the greater the joy, the more terrible or horrifying aspect lies on the other side of the gate. You must remember, gateways cannot always be opened, for there are those individuals who are not yet progressed to the point in their evolutionary journeys, where they could handle it. Therefore if some were to go through their own abyss too early, they may die. And others who may go into bliss too early, may not conquer the lessons they must learn and find themselves subjected again upon the wheel, which goes around. Proceed at your pleasure. Director: End of File 8. Our presence on Internet is freeearthsystem.net. As well as starshipfederation.atspace.co.uk. My presence on Facebook is facebook.com/Sentana-Ries. It is our intent to present to you listeners the words of the Mancharians from the book The Mancharians' Newest Civilization in audio segments of approximately 5 to 9 minutes in length. Happy listening.